those other countries that are in play, you can see them listed up here on the slide up above: Germany, France, Britain, Russia, and others. Italy is involved in this as well, as is Austria. Hungary wants to get involved in China. All of these nations in Europe are going to be looking to China as the place where it can begin to or continue to expand their empires. China, as it said before in the previous slide, does have a weak military, but it's not incredibly weak. It does have a strong enough military to prevent countries from taking it over entirely. So what these countries of Europe begin to do is come up with a more clever plan. They start to look to China almost as if it were a sick animal. And you can see from the slide that we have down here in the lower left, this issue of kind of a sick animal. And what you have here then is China as the dragon, and you have a series of different countries: Germany the eagle, the French rooster, Russian bear, the Japanese jaguar, the Australian double-headed eagle, etc. Italy here as the wolf, and what you're looking at here is them essentially going to carve up the most profitable parts of China. Which parts of China are going to be the best, and which parts of these can we get control over? But remember that China is too strong to conquer directly. So instead, they're going to be looking for something that they call a sphere of influence. They're going to say to China, all right, look, you're an independent country. What we want to do here is, we have military might, and we know we can cause you a lot of problems. Instead of getting into a war here where we're going to end up costing you and us terrible amounts of death and incredible expenditures, we want you to give us control over a small piece of your territory. Not the actual land, just the economic development inside that territory. So that, for example, here in orange on this upper map, anything inside the orange, the British nation gets to control economically. What gets bought, what gets sold, the taxes, the natural resources, all of that is controlled by Britain. And the same would go for France down here in the south part of China, or here in Japan and these little areas of China. These are what we're going to call spheres of influence. And I know they're not spheres, actual spheres, but the idea here, of course, is that you have a globe or a planet, and this is the region, kind of like a moon, that you have influence over, just like the moon is in the influence of the Earth's gravity, so too is this section of China in the influence of those countries' gravity. So this section is in the influence of Britain's gravity, and so on. And these spheres of influence allow these bigger nations to control economic development, and of course make them have a much better chance at controlling the region. The other thing I want to point out here is that this is extraordinarily competitive. If you take a look at the eyes of each of these animals, they're not looking at China, so to speak. They're looking at each other. These animals are too busy thinking about what the other is going to do, that what you should understand is there's a real risk of a global war breaking out, because we have these huge empires around the world. We know that nations like Russia and Japan are going to go to war over China. We could see our first world war over China, and there is a nation not involved here in the background, the United States. So with this premise of a looming potential world war, or at least a huge conflict over who controls what in China, America stands back and sees this and says, we've got to get involved here. Number one, we need to get involved in economic imperialism, but number two, we've got to prevent a costly war.